Hi, I'm Joe Jacobson at Wycombe Wanderers, and you're listening to Wycombe Sound.
The Wycombe Wanderers Show.
Welcome to our first Wycombe Wanderers Show on a leap day. We thought we'd do something special.
What are we doing?
We haven't.
Oh.
We just thought about it. Coming up in the next hour, we'll hear from Phil in a few moments' time with his match briefing, catching up with manager Matt Bloomfield and Barry Labala, who scored a goal of the season contender at Adams Park on Tuesday night in that fantastic 2-0 win against Cheltenham. We'll build up to the visit of Barnsley, high-flying Barnsley, on Saturday at Adams Park, where Andy Rammell will be, former guest of the show, will be in the Legends Lounge. Also coming up, we'll catch up with Captain Jack Grimmer. We'll speak to another former defender, Kevin Day, who played in the mid to late 80s at Lokes Park under a number of managers, including Alan Gain and Peter Sutterby and Jim Kilman. Well, you'll find that out later as well. And we'll catch up with someone from Wycombe Wanderers Women who gives us an opinion on a bit of a contentious goal. Kinney Anderson scored 2, or did she get the final touch? Perhaps. We'll see. In our chat with Daisy Thompson, who also plays for the under-23s. That's coming up in this hour as well. Lots more news to bring you, possibly, if there's time. But first, a chat with Phil, as mentioned. And let's kick off with what happened on Tuesday night.
Yeah, really important to win on Tuesday because Cheltenham 5 points behind Wycombe going into the game, been on really, really good form. They lost to Wycombe at the start of the month, but since then 3 wins and a draw against tough teams. Darryl Clark's done an amazing job. Matty Taylor, 4 goals in 5 appearances for him. He was averaging a goal every 80 minutes. So it looked to be really tricky going into that, and with a lot riding on it, because had Cheltenham won that game, they'd have been 2 points behind Wycombe, and that really would have dragged the Chairboys back to the brink of the sort of relegation dogfight, if you will. But Wycombe won, and they've moved 8 points clear of the dotted line and beaten a really good informed team. You know, Darryl Clark's got them ticking. Really, really good performance. We had to be patient, resilient. Joe Lowe's goal on 85 minutes, you know, it felt like a long time coming, but he nearly took the roof of the net off, which was brilliant. Cap's a great performance for him as well at both ends of the pitch. I think defensively Wycombe were spot on. Franco Ravazzoli, his first league start for the club after Max Triek's suspension, and you know he didn't have a shot to save really, but what he did have to do, come and get crosses, he was great. His kicking was really good as well. So yeah, it was a really good team performance. Joe Lowe epitomised it, the big goal, and after the game, the gaffer was very happy indeed.
Darryl's done a fantastic job at Cheltenham. They're one of the form teams in the league. I think that they've been in real good form recently, a real tough opponent. So for us to take 6 points in the 2 games is no mean feat. We have to be really, really pleased with the way we played.
Had to be patient tonight at times as well. It was another dominant first half, but going down the tunnel at 0-0.
Yeah, Cheltenham are a real resilient team, really tough to beat, don't concede many goals, and you know, like I say, Darryl's done an incredible job. They're set up really strong, so we knew that we had to be a little bit patient tonight. We wanted to go and get a goal early. We had a couple of chances first half, hit the bar, a couple of near misses, but we had to be patient. But really pleased with the impact that the finishes had. You know, with this busy schedule, we know that we're going to have to chop and change and utilise the legs when we need to. So yeah, we have to be really pleased with the way after the penalty miss there was a bit of a lull, I think, a little bit of disappointment around the ground and a little bit of disappointment on the pitch, and I think the energy just dropped for 5 or 10 minutes. Cheltenham made 4 changes and got some good energy about themselves, so we had to go again. And so for the resilience of the boys to keep going and keep creating opportunities, we're really pleased. I
was going to say resilience was a characteristic of Wycombe tonight as well. That penalty save and some other good saves from the keeper, it looked like it could be one of those nights where the keeper may take the man of the match award and we couldn't find a way through, but patience held out.
I thought he was excellent. The save from Dalo in the first half, the penalty, I actually thought his best save was from GMAC, from the edge of the box. It's gone through bodies and it looked like it was going in, and he's got a strong hand to it. So fair play to him. We created some real good opportunities, loads of near moments as well, which we want to make more of and create more clear-cut chances probably. But yeah, the resilience to keep going. I'm really proud of the boys, you know, because you know, they've had a busy time and we need to now recover and get ready for Saturday. Really pleased for the supporters as well, because we want to keep giving them some cheers at home. So, like I say, for the finishers to come on and have the impact they had, really chuffed.
A very good defensive display as well, even after the quadruple change and change of shape for Cheltenham. Rode that wave really well and protected Franco Ravazzoli very well too.
Yeah, I thought Franco did everything that was asked of him. I thought his kicking was really consistent. He's really calm presence behind there. I thought Taff and Joey defended really well, the whole back four. Can't leave out Lukey and Jack Grimmer. I actually felt after the penalty our distances just got a little bit too big and the spaces were opening up, which we weren't too chuffed about, so we felt like we needed fresh energy on the pitch, which we did. Obviously, Sad's had a long game on Saturday and GMAC didn't play, so we're trying to utilise the legs as best we can. Vokesy, I thought, had a real big impact for us tonight, but we felt like we could have some change and some impact, so we have to be really, really pleased with the 3 points.
And Joe Lowe showing his value at both ends of the pitch tonight. It's been a while since he scored, but he nearly took the net off for that one.
Yeah, we've been telling him he's due one because he had a couple early on and he hasn't scored one recently. So, Joey, we think a lot of Joey. He's come in, had a real big impact on the team, probably more than what we envisaged in July. He's really gone and grabbed his opportunity and we're really pleased for him. So he's a top lad, real big desire to learn, a real big desire to improve and keep moving forward. So really chuffed for him, and then obviously for Bez as well. Like, what an impact he has had. I think that he's done really well since he's come in to us. We knew that he had a real big goal threat about him, but what a beautiful strike for him to get his first for us.
Goal of the season contender?
Yeah, maybe. I don't think we've had too many outside the box, have we? Potsy's away at Charlton, I remember. There's not been too many like that speculative. So, it's got to be a contender, but we hope to have a few more between now and the end of April.
And sets us up nicely for this tie against Barnsley on Saturday as well. It's been a busy period. We've got a week off midweek next week, but we've come through some busy games. We've guaranteed a trip to Wembley and picked up some wins.
Yeah, we have. I feel like the energy and the intensity in the group has been really important to the way we play. So we've had to kind of mix and match and chop and change at times, which obviously runs the risk of losing consistency. But to a degree, I feel like we've kept that. So Barnsley is going to be a tough game. They'll bring their energy. They know what they're about. I think they're a real good team. Neil's done a real good job there. So, yeah, we've got some good players, but we feel like we're in good form and we're looking forward to the game.
Really nice to hear from the manager, and the fact that he praised the finishers, as he calls them, but in old money, substitutes.
Yeah, it was odd on the night because Kieran Sadler has become a fan favourite, was playing really, really well. And there were a few boos around Adams Park when Sads was taken off. It was a double sub, so David Wheeler came on and Beryley Labala. Wheels got the assist for the first goal and Bez got the second goal. I think it's worth remembering as well that Sads had missed the game at Bradford due to illness. So and we've had a lot of games in this time, Wednesday, Saturday, Tuesday. Sads made the trip and had to watch the game from his hotel room as he recovered. So you've got to manage a load of these people, these athletes, and these players. Otherwise, these injuries and illnesses can linger. So the subs came on and made a real impact. In fact, they turned the game almost because, the assist for Joe Lowe was excellent. And Beryley Labala's goal of the season contender, great way to score your first goal for the club. And he was absolutely buzzing after the game too.
I'm delighted to get the first one for Wycombe. It's been a long time coming. I guess I've been here for a few games now, so played quite a few games. Couldn't quite get it the other day against Oxford. I had a good chance there. But yeah, just delighted I could get it today, and what a way to do it.
Psychologically big for a striker, isn't it, to get that first goal? You've been working hard up top, and you reference that chance against Oxford, but when one goes in, does it lift the weight off the shoulders and you think, well, I can kick on from here?
Yeah, 100%. You'll probably see that in my celebration. I didn't know where I was after that goal went in. But yeah, I was really happy, obviously, for the team as well, and the boys really deserved that, getting over the line, getting them goals to make sure that we win the game. So yeah, I was buzzing for myself and the team at the same time.
The gaffer calls the substitutes finishers. You're finishing the game and adding something to it. Wycombe had to be very patient today. The goals didn't come until 85 and 88 minutes, so there was some real resilience from the boys today.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like we've been doing that. We've been doing that since I've been here. The resilience of the boys and the way the group keeps on working hard, keeps believing. I see the great work done behind the scenes by the coaching staff, how they prepare us and the detail that they go into. So everyone knows their jobs out there, and I feel like we just haven't had that look, that bit of luck to get the goal sometimes, or things going our way. And I'm just delighted today for the whole group, for the team performance, and to come away with 2 goals. Yeah, it was amazing.
It's been a really busy period as well, lots of games in quick succession, and it continues with a game against Barnsley on Saturday, who are in great form and knocking on the door of the top 2. That's going to be a tough test here.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough test. But But I think we're going to be on the front foot and ready to go. There's nothing to fear. We know that if we play our best football, we've got every chance of winning every game. So I know that the boys will be very looking forward to that game, raring to go. There'll be obviously competition for places, and something that's been pushing the whole team recently. There's options in all positions, and the intensity in training is really good. So, yeah, I think the boys will be raring to go to make it another 3 points at home.
Great to hear from him. As you say, it means so much for him to get off the mark. And it was really fortuitous, actually, because having Joe Jacobson alongside you, who I'm sure fans will be aware of, he said after the first goal that, it's important now not to just sort of rest on that and to really try, even at that stage in the game.
Well, late goals have been a real killer for Wycombe this season. We've lost a lot of points from 90 minutes plus. I did the maths the other week, worked out how many, I can't remember, but it was a lot. And, fans get twitchy. The players then detect that and feel that too, and it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, that, because if you stand getting on edge, and you think, oh, wouldn't it be awful if this happened, and then lo and behold it happens. But when you're 2-0 up, when the board goes up, everything's a little bit calmer, and it was a comfortable defensive display for Wycombe Wanderers. I thought they were excellent. The back four and the keeper as well. Butcher in midfield has added some real steel and a bit of height. So yeah, comfortable. 3 points and a clean sheet. The perfect night under the lights.
And looking at the stats for Tuesday as well, that the home team had 24 shots.
Yes, yeah, and that there's two ways of looking at that stat. It's a positive thing as well, but then equally, we should have been more than one goal up by 85 minutes when the first one came. I thought the keeper did really, really well for Cheltenham. I think Southwood had a really, really good game. The penalty, another penalty not converted, which is a concern. But they've all been on target. I thought Freddie Potts was the best of the missed penalties, so to speak. It was a really good hit. Keeper's guessed the right way, and it's a fantastic save. And it was one of many fantastic saves that Luke Southwood's made on the night. But penalties, Wycombe need to start converting those, because it does take the pressure off a bit.
And it really feels like, we're moving into, it feels like, there's a lot about key time with some really big teams coming to Adams Park, but also, Wycombe going to them as well. Look,
Barnsley's a great game. One defeat in 16 on the road in the league for Barnsley, and that was a defeat at Pride Park against Derby. But Wycombe are 9 unbeaten at home in all competitions, so something's got to give there perhaps. But down the years, we've tended to raise our game and play better against the teams at the top end of the table. Barnsley will be looking at the top two now. They lost the playoff final last year, which is heartbreaking. I was at that game. They didn't deserve to lose it. They lost their manager. They lost their entire back three. They've all been replaced really, really well. They're fourth in the table now. A couple of games in hand. They've got to play teams in and around them as well. I wouldn't mind betting they get there automatically this season. It should be a really good game, because, as you say, Wycombe tend to raise their game against the top teams, and also it's the first opportunity, I guess, for many fans who perhaps couldn't make Tuesday to come along and support the team after getting to Wembley. Yeah, Rob Couig, the chairman's been over this week. And I wouldn't say he's banned to talk about Wembley, but I think his mantra is that we need to concentrate on the league, because we've got 6 weeks till we get to Wembley, till that final. And I think we'd all at the club appreciate, and I'm sure the fans would as well, to be in a much safer position in League One than we perhaps could have been over Christmas. So we can really enjoy that day at Wembley. It's a one-off game. It's a final against Peterborough. Our old friends, lots riding on that. But it would be great if we could go into that game free from worries about our league status. And that's really achievable, because in 6 weeks we have quite a few games, starting with Barnsley on Saturday. So if we can pull ourselves and get ourselves safely stuck into mid-table, that would be a great result going into Wembley on April the 7th. Does it feel like getting to that trophy final has given the team a real lift? I know obviously that the game straight after that they lost against Stevenage, but just kind of generally, and obviously the win on Tuesday night as well. It's a really odd competition, because at the start, no one comes to watch it. It's much maligned by the fans in the group stages. You have a large section of football that don't believe that under-21 teams should be taking part in it. We've played a lot of the under-21 teams in it, obviously in the group, and then 3 knockout stages. At the start, it gave us valuable minutes for people like Jasper Pattenden, who used it as a springboard to get themselves into the first team. We've seen Declan Skura getting his first minutes as a Wycombe Wanderers player. He's now having an excellent loan spell at Ebbsfleet, so that was transformative for him. Lots of the younger players have got minutes. We've had players who have been coming back from injury, looking to get their match fitness up. Players who aren't necessarily playing week in, week out, trying to catch the manager's eye. And then as we've gone through the knockout rounds, we went full strength against Bradford. because we wanted to get to Wembley, and all of a sudden now it's a Wembley final, and we're talking about selling 25,000 tickets for a game that in the group stage I think we had 300 people at. So it's a funny competition, but for many reasons it's been very useful for Wycombe Wanderers this season, and we've used it to kickstart ourselves a couple of times. If we've had slumps in the league and this competition has dragged us up a bit. That game against Bradford I still don't understand how we got through it. The pitch was awful. We didn't get going. Bradford know their pitch really well and played much better, but crucially they didn't take their chances. And it was Wycombe this time with the 91st minute goal. And I think it's a little bit of karma perhaps, or a little bit of things evening themselves out, because we've had some late heartbreak this season, none more so than Barnsley away at the reverse fixture back in November when we conceded a very odd goal. Which upon replay should not have stood. So to maybe suck up some pressure and get a 91st minute winner in a semi-final to get to Wembley, maybe paying itself off a bit. But we'll use it to kickstart ourselves. But as Rob says, Wembley is a long way away. We know we're going to be there, but we've got to get some points on the board before we get there.
And great positive going into Saturday as well. The manager's got such an attacking options at his disposal, and obviously they've shown on Tuesday night they can cope without Max as well.
Look, 5 subs now. This law's been in place for a little while. It's changed the game, I think, because you can really sort of almost change your entire front line in one fell swoop. We saw 4 subs at one stage in the second half from Cheltenham that really disrupted the flow of the game, changed the momentum of it. And Wycombe then responded and brought on two attacking players with fresh legs and Josh in midfield, and it swung it back to Wycombe's way. So, look, of course, you've got to get the subs right, you've got to make the right decisions, but that's what Football Manager's all about. Who'd be a football manager? But I think on Tuesday we really saw the value of the squad, the depth of the squad. And Barry Labala's going to be knocking on the gaffer's door now saying, look, scored a great goal on Tuesday, I want to start Saturday. Whoever does get the start now realises they've got to produce the goods, because someone on the bench wants to take their place, and that's great competition. It's a great headache for the manager. Hopefully they keep banging the goals in and converting these chances, because like I said, against Cheltenham we should have been further ahead than we were when we got to that first goal in 85 minutes.
Fingers crossed for 3 points. Enjoy the game on Saturday. Thank you for your time.
Cheers, Colin.
Great chatting to Phil. He'll be bringing you the whole match live on Saturday. Build up from
12 o'clock in the car park with Rob, live on Wanderers TV with build up from 2.
Nice. Wycombe Wanderers against Barnsley. You can get more content on Wanderers TV and on the Wycombe Wanderers website. You can hear that chat with the manager in full. You can hear more from Barry Labala and also Jolo as well after Tuesday night. You'll also be able to find an extended interview with the manager recorded yesterday.
Yes, on Pretty Much Drills.
Also about Jasper Pattenden signing his new contract.
That's exciting news. Well done, Jasper.
And many more things as well. The Wycombe Wanderers Show continues here at Wycombe Sound.
Online, on Radio Player, and on 106.6 FM. This is Wycombe Sound.
Still to come on this week's edition of the Wycombe Wanderers Show, we'll hear from Wycombe Wanderers women forward, that's hard to say each week, Daisy Thompson, and we'll catch up with Captain Jack Grimmer as well. But first, with thanks as always to the Wycombe Wanderers Ex-Players Association, we speak to Kevin Day, who was, by his own admission, at the club a comparatively short amount of time in the mid to late 80s. Approximately, and he played in the heart of defence initially in the reserves, as you'll hear in a few moments' time, as we caught up with Kevin, who is now currently based in Kent, and as you can appreciate, is recalling things that happened a comparatively long time ago.
Earliest memory was really sort of first going there and playing in the Capital League, which was almost like the reserve league. So I sort of went there in the January of 1986 and played in the Capital League. I can remember going home after the first game and actually saying to my wife, I don't think I can play at that level, that's a bit too quick, which was interesting. But actually stayed at the club and then went through the pre-season, and then was lucky enough to be one of the only centre-halves really that was around and fit and able to play. So I was sort of almost thrust straight into the first team, which was fantastic. It was really good, really good.
Because I guess initially you perhaps wouldn't have expected to be playing regularly in the first team.
Not to start with, no. I mean, I'd gone there initially. I'd sort of been recommended to go there because I'd sort of played at Worsborough Bridge when I was away at university, and someone said to me, "You should really, try out." And they had a contact with Brian Lee at the time and said, give Brian a call and see if you can go along to training. So that's how it all started. I just went along and did a bit of training, but hopefully I showed enough in those games for Alan to sort of trusted me and obviously give me a chance in the first team, which I'm always grateful for.
And you really managed to benefit from a long-term injury to Dave Burgess at that time too.
I did. I felt very sorry for Budgie at the time, yeah. Because obviously he'd been alongside Anton Verkabs the year before. And, from what I understand, they were a really sort of popular partnership and did very well. So, unfortunately, Dave was injured. As I say, I was one of the few sort of fit centre-halves around, so I was sort of thrust into it. But was lucky enough to be put alongside Keith Barrett. I mean, what a joy that was. That was fantastic. So.
No, absolutely, because I guess you must have known at the time he was a England amateur international and fantastic to kind of, as you say, be paired alongside him.
Absolutely. I mean, when the news sort of broke that Keith and Noel were coming across, it was, it felt a little bit unreal actually to start with. But both of them were absolutely fantastic. Given the level that they played at and the standard they were at, they gave so much help to other players there. And as I say, Keith gave me so much sort of confidence and help, and I really enjoyed myself. It was brilliant to play alongside him.
Did it feel like a really special time? Because obviously you mentioned Noel Ashford, who played at the time, and Kevin Durham as well, who was there, Graham Brettington, who we had on the show, might have been last week or the week before.
Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of good players. Obviously, Mark West. I mean, he was a bit of a legend, wasn't he, at the club? But there were so many other people. There was Gary Lester. What a goalkeeper he was. I mean, whenever obviously teams got through, sort of Keith and myself, Gary was always at the end, seeming to stop the chances. So that was brilliant. Kurt Corbyn, I'm sure people will remember as well. Kurt came along perhaps later on in the season because I think Anthony Riley, who'd been playing at right back, had sort of left and everything. So Kurt came along, but had a fantastic end to the season. We just had players like Mark Dorber, who was fantastic on the wing. As you say, Kevin Durham was brilliant for us, Jason Seacole. So there were some really, really good players. And the great thing about it was that, to a certain extent, I mean, we had such a fantastic start to the season. I think we went unbeaten in the first 9 games or something. But virtually every time we went into a game, we had a bit of difficulty. One of those players would turn something on. They would do something. Noel would always create a great chance or score a goal, or Kevin Durham would do something. We had such a team of players that could create chances, and it was just brilliant to play behind some of those players.
Did it feel like a bit of a period of transition when you arrived? Because I guess they'd just been relegated from the conference the previous season, and there was sort of work to do, if you like. Yeah,
it did feel a bit like that. Again, with players like Anton Verkabs going, I think captain at the time as well. I think it did feel that it was a little bit of a rebuild. There were clearly some players from the previous year, but not that many. And with people like Noel and Keith coming and Graham Brettington breaking through. Mark West was probably quite young at the time, and obviously he came through as well. It did feel like that, and we had there was quite a bit of competition from Yeovil that year. I think it was always seen to be between us and Yeovil to sort of win the league, and in the end, I think we won it by about 9 points, which was quite a margin considering they beat us twice, I think, in the league that year. So, and
success in the Berks and Bucks Cup as well.
Yeah, we had the Berks and Bucks Senior Cup final, which was great, beating Aylesbury, which was obviously the club I moved on to afterwards. But we also won the President's Cup that year, which was a sort of cup that was run for the Capital League sort of programme. And I think we beat Barnet over 2 legs and won the President's Cup as well. So the whole year was just full of success. It was amazing.
I've got a feeling that was my first game that I went to, the Barnet game at Lokes Park.
Oh, right. Well, you'd have seen probably one of the best goals you've ever seen then. That was Kevin Durham volleying it.
No, absolutely.
From the corner of the penalty box. It was an amazing goal.
No, it's fantastic. And obviously, Lokes Park had such great character. Well, the slope, obviously. How did you cope with that?
Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, the good thing was the surface actually wasn't too bad. So generally, we sort of were quite lucky to be playing on a good surface. The biggest problem was if you ended up in the bottom corner, because once you run down there, you had to run back uphill to get out of it. So that was always a bit tiring. But by and large, I think we all got used to it and we played on it, and obviously were very successful on it.
And you're obviously at the club a comparatively short amount of time, but played under a number of managers. How was that?
Yeah, that's always interesting. Again, that was all new to me in some respects. So having played under Alan, and as I say, Alan Gain had clearly put a lot of trust in me that year, which was fantastic. You feel like you're having to prove yourself again when new managers come in. So I was never sure how that would sort of happen. Obviously, Peter Sotheby came along, and Peter was really good. I thought he was really excellent as a coach in terms of sort of coaching, not just me, but the back four generally in terms of movement and shape and things like that. That was really enjoyable. And he wasn't one that sort of, you get sort of, I guess, different types of managers. Some that sort of scream and shout at times, others that are a bit more thoughtful and talkative. And Peter was certainly in that sort of second category, a lot more thoughtful about things. And then, unfortunately, things didn't work out for Peter, and he moved on, and Jim Kelman came in. And I'd known Jim a little bit through football coaching. I used to be a coach as well, and so I'd known Jim a little bit through that. So it was less about proving myself. Well, it was about proving myself, but it was someone I knew, whereas I never knew Peter beforehand. So it was about building that relationship with Peter. Whereas with Jim, it was slightly different. But at that time, Jim had his own sort of views in terms of the style of play he wanted to play. He wanted to play a slightly different system and things like that. You'll probably remember he had two wing backs. He played, I think it was Sean Norman and Steve Abley, I think it was, the wing backs, yeah, and played sort of three at the back. And that was different to what we'd been playing. We'd been playing a 4-4-2 most of the time. And at that time, he began to look at other centre-half, people like Matt Crossley and Glyn Creaser, and brought them along. And I think I'd had an injury that year and went out on loan to Harrow Borough as well. But you could see the things were sort of transitioning, things were changing. And obviously, Glyn had played at a really good level. I think he was at Barnet, wasn't he? Matt Crossley had come across as a young player, I think, from the sort of Newbury area. And you could see straight away, I mean, it was always going to be slightly more difficult for me to get back into that team. And Jim, released me at that point and sold me on to Aylesbury United.
And obviously your day job, combining that as well, that I guess played a factor in your departure as well.
A little bit, not so much, but because I was still working at Wycombe District Council at the time, I was still doing the sports development role there. It was probably a little bit later, actually, after Aylesbury, where I moved over to Essex, actually, for a job over in Essex as a sports development officer there. And that really sort of began to put pay to me playing in that sort of, in the Aylesbury-Wycombe area. That was just a bit too far to travel and everything for that. So, and at the time I had a child. We had our first son had been born, and priorities had changed a little bit. And I was in my early 30s, I think at 31, 32. With a discussion with my wife, it was felt that when I moved across to Essex, it was probably time to give up playing non-league football, really.
No, absolutely. And I guess that sort of time as well was really when, the likes of Dave Carroll and John Granville, and you mentioned Matt Crossley as well, and Andy Kerr, and that they were all coming in at that time too.
They were, and I was lucky enough to play with people like Dave and Dave Carroll and Andy Kerr. I say Andy Robinson was there, John Granville. There was a whole number of players there, and it was really good. And I do remember actually saying because I was sold in something like the March of the season, so there was a couple of months to go, and I remember saying at the time, whilst I'm leaving, I'd still like to actually go on the tour at the end of the season because I enjoyed the company of those guys. They were really good guys, and it was really nice. And the club were gracious enough to say yes, I could go on the tour at the end of the season with those players as well. So that was great. That was really good.
You mentioned Mark West as well, of course. It must have been fantastic playing at that stage of his career with him too, and sort of knowing what he went on to achieve with the club as well.
Oh yeah, no, it was brilliant. I mean, you could see to a certain extent, that he had so much ability. He just sought out opportunities in the box. It was amazing, things that you'd never think he would get on the end of. He always got across a defender and got across the near post and did really well there. He was actually pretty good in the air for his size. He was never a big fella, Mark, but scored some great goals with his head as well. So, and he was left foot, right foot, and always a bit of a fox in the box, wasn't he? He scored loads of goals. No,
absolutely. So, were there any other opposing forwards or perhaps other teams that you recall, caused you any particular problems?
Yeah, I'm sure there were a few of those. There are two that really stand out for me, actually. One was in that first season, we played, I think it was VS Rugby in the FA Cup, and we were clearly favourites to win that game. And we lost, I think, something like 5-1. And they had a player, Steve Norris, who went on to have a professional career, actually. And Steve scored a hat-trick that day. And, he gave me the run around a bit that day. The other one, who I think was probably the best player I played against at that time, was Steve Butler at Maidstone. And Maidstone beat us 5-0, I think, in the league when we went up into the National League, into the conference. And, again, I think he scored a hat-trick and gave me a real run around that day. So, those two in particular, not particularly great memories, but, I do remember them.
Does it feel like a long time ago or not really?
In some respects it does, but in other respects it doesn't feel that long ago, because I'm now talking to you about some of these things, the memories are sort of flooding back a little bit, actually. And so it doesn't feel so long, but, ironically, it's nearly 40 years, isn't it? 38 years or something. It's just crazy.
But I imagine as well, from that period, you could have never imagined even the team would be, flying high in League One, or what was then the third division.
No, I mean, you could see the way the club was run. I mean, again, I think I was very, very lucky to play at both Wycombe and Aylesbury, where I felt both clubs were well run behind the scenes. The secretary, John Goldsworthy, everything that was set up in the background, Brian Lee and then Ivor Beeks as chairman. You could see the club was really well run and you could see the way it was going to go. But I'm not sure, perhaps I felt that it was going to necessarily be as successful as it has been. I mean, it's now a firmly established English Football League One club, isn't it? And with a chance, obviously, of going up into the Championship at some point again. So it's been absolutely fantastic to see how the club's progressed.
And also great for you as well, obviously, when you left the club, as you say, went on to Aylesbury and other games that you've played, and really must look back on with fondness as well.
Yes, I certainly enjoyed myself at Aylesbury as well. I think I always felt relatively privileged to be playing non-league football because it was something I'd never felt I'd ever do, actually. But so every game for me was always, enjoyable. I'd always found it was good fun and everything. Aylesbury was slightly different. Probably had a bit more success in the FA Cup actually at Aylesbury than I had at Wycombe. So I managed to get to the second round at least once. And I remember going up and playing at West Brom at the Hawthorns. I think that was the first round against Ozzy Ardiles' team, and unfortunately we got hammered about 8-0 that day. But but as I say, it's just different memories really. Probably a bit more success in the FA Cup with Aylesbury, but certainly the first season at Wycombe was, well, it was like what dreams are made of in some respects. It was amazing.
No, it must have been fantastic to have those experiences and also to share dressing rooms and camaraderie with the players that you did.
Oh yes, and to a certain extent, for me, that's what sort of made it so enjoyable. I can't remember, in all honesty, in any of the clubs, or either of the clubs rather I was at, that there was any animosity between players or any real thing. People just enjoyed themselves, had good fun together. As I say, I was just lucky to play alongside and with some really, really good players, and I really enjoyed that.
I noticed the final fixture for the Wycombe this season is against Charlton, which is, I understand, something which might hold split loyalties for yourself and your family.
A little bit split loyalties, yeah. I was born in South East London, and it was the first club that my father took me to. That was his club, Charlton. So I do have a fondness for them, and I do keep an eye out for them. My brother-in-law is a big Charlton fan, was a season ticket holder until fairly recently. My oldest son is a big Charlton fan as well. So, as you say, a little bit of mixed loyalty, so maybe a draw would do us well as long as both teams stay up and do well, that's fine.
And of course, you're based down in Kent now, I guess, so Charlton not too far for you.
They're not. I don't get the chance to go very much because my youngest son actually plays a bit of non-league football, so I tend to go and watch him actually. So I don't really go and watch the pro game very much.
Oh, fantastic. So overall, how would you sort of look back and sum up your time at the club?
Just with great fondness, really. It's such an enjoyable time. It's something, as I said earlier, I didn't expect to necessarily be playing at that level and with those players. So, I feel to a certain extent quite proud that I played at that level and with those people. But everything was just great fun, really enjoyed myself and was lucky enough to have good managers, good players to play alongside. It was just really good memories, really good.
Well, it's been brilliant to speak to you and catch up and share your memories. Thank you so much for your time.
You're more than welcome, Colin. Thanks very much.
Real pleasure chatting to Kevin Day, taking us back around 40 years, just under. More from the Wycombe Wanderers Ex-Players Association next week.
Online, on Radio Player, and on 106.6 FM. This is Wycombe Sound. The Wycombe Wanderers Show, Thursdays from 7. 106.6 FM. Wycombe Sound.
Still to come on this week's edition of the Wycombe Wanderers Show, we'll hear from Jack Grimmer. But first, following Wycombe Wanderers Women, they've got their final 4 league games of the season coming up. Been catching up with Daisy Thompson, who's been playing for the first team recently, also in the under-23s as well. And coming up, we'll reflect on the game last weekend where they were beaten against league leaders Ascot United, despite scoring twice. Keely Anderson with 2 goals, or did she get both? Find out. It's been a contentious issue during the week about a particular free kick. But first, you can find out about Daisy's footballing past, how she got into the game from quite an early age, and locally as well.
I actually started playing football at a school camp after school, and it was actually a Wycombe Wanderers foundation thing. So my mum put me in that after school, And I've got like loads of certificates and medals with like the Wycombe badge on. So it's been like a full circle actually. So I've been playing football since about the age of 5.
And what was it like kind of finding your position, what your preferred place to play, or do you not have one?
I actually started as a right back in a boys team when I was 11. That was my first competitive league. And then my like memory of it is I scored like a goal from the halfway line. And from then they've put me up top.
So you only joined Wycombe in the summer from Bournemouth. What was that like?
Yeah, so I was in Bournemouth because of university, so I joined Bournemouth Sports as it was local. Yeah, they were a great lot, and coming to Wycombe just made sense for me because I lived local, and the girls were supportive, and obviously Wycombe have been really supportive in the move as well. So it's been fantastic.
So what's it been like coming up against Bournemouth recently as well?
Yeah, it was my debut league game for the first team against my former club. You could say there was a few nerves involved, but it was fine. The environment was very supportive from both Wycombe and Bournemouth, so it was a good day out.
How would you compare the two teams, having obviously played for both?
I would say Bournemouth's way of doing things are a bit different. They've got a lot smaller team behind the scenes, and Wycombe, of course, have a fantastic coaching staff and fantastic facilities. But I think the level of football is about the same. It's just obviously, Bournemouth have been on top for a few years, but Wycombe are definitely on their way to matching that.
And have you found the differences playing for the under-23s as opposed to the first team, the appearances that you made there?
Well, we train together a lot in training, so the standards have been set to be the same. And so in playing matches and stuff, like we hope that we can play our absolute best. And obviously, a lot of players have been doing so well that they've been called up to the first team, which has been amazing. And so the transition into the first team, you would think would be a little bit more tough. But I think the support we get in training has made it a lot easier.
And have you noticed a real development in your own game too, especially this season?
Yeah, I think so. I think obviously joining a different squad, you have to find your place. And I think starting in the 23s has definitely helped build my confidence, scoring more goals this season than I did last, and getting my chance with the first team also, and then getting 2 quite strong chances against Bournemouth definitely helped my confidence, and that wouldn't have been possible without the coaching staff and the players around me.
That must really help as well with your fitting in if you can get goals and really contribute in assists as well, I'm sure.
Oh yeah. Unfortunately, we don't count assists, but I'm fairly sure I've got quite a few, especially with Shannon having 18 goals this season, which is crazy numbers. It's just great to be part of a team like the under-23s who have been absolutely smashing it, getting loads of goals. Amara as well has come through very young, scoring bangers every week, and Mia Parkin and her goal for the first team was incredible as well.
And do you find that they sort of look up to you in a way? Because obviously you've got that first team experience now and they think, oh, that could be something I could be doing as well.
I would like to think some of them look up to me. Obviously, I've been playing women's football a little bit longer than a lot of the younger girls. So I've been in women's football for 3 seasons now, whereas this is most of their firsts. So I think I bring a little bit more experience than they do, but I'm also learning from them, like their drive and their just willingness to do whatever they can to get that spot in the first team is very admirational. So I hope they look up to me, and I try my best to communicate with them and be as positive as I can, because I think at the end of the day, that's what helps people do their absolute best.
We should speak a bit about a particular goal on Sunday, which would be great to get your view on.
Go on.
So who do you think got the final touch?
It's a controversial one. However, I did say I think Ash did get a slight touch, but it was going another way. So Kine has a strong call on that one.
It was fantastic. Well, obviously it wasn't great to not win, but there were so many positives to take, from that game and other recent performances that you and the rest of the team have put in as well.
Yeah, I think the scoreline against Ascot on Sunday was like I think they were the better team on the day, but it just could have been closer. And I think recent performances and the scorelines show that we're just getting better every week. And I think Danny coming in as a coach and providing the tactics and the analysis, I think it just shows there's bigger and better things to come. And next season, I think there's definitely a chance of coming in the top 1 or 2 if things keep going the way they are.
Because it seems a shame in a way, doesn't it, that you're down to the final 4 games for the first team. Are there particular things that you hope to achieve? Obviously, or win them all, but that would be a main goal.
I think our aim for the end of the season now is just to finish as high as physically possible. I think the aim is to go unbeaten for the rest of the season, which I think is absolutely possible. With the fixtures we've got, like the first team, I'm sure they can get a result against Badshot this weekend and Woodley coming up. And then the 23s as well. I think we want to come as close as to the top as we can. We've made a few mistakes, which has probably cost us the title. However, we just want to keep pushing for second or third, whatever's possible. If the fixtures can go our way, we can probably still grab second, but third is looking more likely. But just keep winning and keep improving, I think is the goal.
Does it feel really great for yourself as well to be involved in, you got a sort of foot in both camps, if you like, because you're representing both teams?
Yeah, having a foot in 2 camps is it's quite difficult as well, because I think the first team do play a little bit differently to the 23s, and it has a lot more experience within that team, so it's big shoes to fill when you're coming in. And in the 23s, obviously being a more experienced player, you take more of a leadership role. So it's definitely 2 different roles, and fitting both can be quite challenging. However, I'm up for the challenge, and I'll step in wherever I'm needed, do my absolute best for both teams, and just keep winning is my goal. I love playing for the 23s. Like, the league is a little bit easier than the first teams league. The first teams league is very challenging, with obviously teams wanting to progress to the national league, and the 23s is a bit more comfortable. However, the teams in that league are still giving it to us for sure. We've got a big game against Long Crendon coming up, which is going to be a tough one. They are currently top of the league, so that's going to be a big game. However, we did beat them last time out, so I'm looking forward to the challenging games ahead.
And how do you find balancing the football and obviously the rest of your life as well? Because obviously you recently graduated and you're working full time, but training twice a week and obviously playing games for both teams as well.
Yeah, obviously, yeah. So I played for Bournemouth Sports while being full-time at university, which was quite challenging at times when you had big deadlines coming up. But I think at the end of the day, football's a release, and it's not as hard when you're turning up to a session after a long day and you just enjoy playing football. So as much as it's hard to fit around a busy life, it's very rewarding and almost a stress relief, if you wish.
No, absolutely. What was it you do in your day job?
So I work at a country club and spa. I just work making coffees for people, having chats with members. I actually really enjoy it.
I'm sure they enjoy chatting to you as well, and chatting to you about your football, I imagine.
Oh, yeah, they love it. They come in every Monday. They're like, "Did you score? Did you score?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Or, no, and they're like, "Next week." There's always next week. I'm like, thanks, guys. They're my biggest fans.
Well, it's been brilliant to speak to you. Wish you best for all the rest of the season, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, Colin.
Brilliant chatting to Daisy. They do speak well, don't they?
It's so annoying. I can't talk that well now. Well done.
You can't, no. More from Wycombe Wanderers Women next week. But first... we've been speaking to Captain Jack, which reflecting on the game against Bradford, the defeat against Stevenage, the fantastic win on Tuesday night, of course, and lots more as well.
Because you're going straight back into the business of the season, it's very different compared to Wembley when the playoffs, because you don't play again until Wembley, so the excitement really builds. Whereas this one's a lot different. We've straight back down to earth with Stevenage on Saturday, and then last night's victory was a hard fought one as well. And I think Wembley's been put sort of to the back of our minds for the time being.
It must have been strange as well, because as you say, it was such a tight turnaround for the Stevenage game on Saturday as well, with the fixture being on the Wednesday night.
Yeah, exactly. It was such a... I'm not going to lie, it was a weird one. We got back to the hotel, and yes, everyone was happy that we were at Wembley, but first and foremost, we weren't happy at all with the performance. And I know, the history books won't recognise what the performance was like. All that matters is the fact that we got to Wembley. But, I think our pride was hurt probably more at our performance, and I think that's why we sort of went in fighting into Saturday's game at Stevenage, hoping to get a point or get a result, because I think, although we were, excited and we've got a great day to look forward to, by no means was the performance good enough and for the standards that we've sort of set, and thankfully we managed to then put it right last night.
Does it feel like a bit of sort of justice in a way, or is that a bit strange to say that, there have been games obviously where you've been unfortunate and not scored, whereas, Bradford to get that goal, that late on as well?
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I thought, the thoughts creep in last night, when we missed the penalty. We had probably a lot of the better chances. They ended up not having a shot on target. And I just thought, at the back of my mind, I was thinking, is this going to be the game that we have all these chances, have the majority of the play, and then what we did to Bradford gets done to us? So I'm very, very relieved and grateful that wasn't the case. The boys managed to up it and we managed to get the 2 goals. But that's football. The many times this season we've been the better side and we've lost games or we've drawn games that we didn't deserve to lose or draw. So I think that's football essentially. It's just about taking chances. And for all Bradford's play, they never managed to score. And in a very statistical game, there's one result that matters, and that's if you can score more than your opponent. So, thankfully we did that.
And so encouraging as well. I know we spoke before that the chances being created as well. I think last night there were 24 shots from the home team as well.
Yeah, exactly. It's massive. I think we've found a good bit of form. I mean, in football, you're always going to get your critics, but I think we've started to find our feet with the formation and the personnel. The team feels a lot more settled at times, and I think that's shown in performances and results. And I think we're starting to sort of get out of games what we feel that we deserve, and long may it continue, and we can hopefully finish the season strongly and on a positive note, because it's essentially we are not where we sort of set out the season to be, but we can still finish on a positive note with a trip to Wembley and pushing further up the table.
And so pleasing as well to be able to show that after a run of conceding late in games, you can also score late in games, and not just the 1 goal either.
Yeah, exactly. I think it was good for us because there's been times this season where we've scored and we've went 1-0 up, and then we've sort of sat back and invited pressure, and then inevitably teams like your Port Vale and your Lincoln have then managed to nick an equaliser in the dying minutes, and and essentially then get a point out of a game that they probably shouldn't have had anything. And I think it was important for us to get the second goal, but it was more important for me, especially being a defender and being one of the experienced ones back there, is to keep the clean sheet. I think since I've been here, we've been built on a solid foundation at the back and keeping clean sheets. And I think the quicker we can get back to that, the better. I think it's been a few clean sheets in our last couple of games, so it's a welcome sort of addition at this time of the season.
And so pleasing both, as you say, at the back end and going forward, really pleasing for the foundation for Saturday as well.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's, Saturday's a great game for us, back at home again in front of our fans. The Barnsley, I think the teams in and around the playoffs sort of have started to drop points here and there. We went through it last year, similar position in February. I think we went 1-5 in the bounce, went, I think, maybe top of the league, and then we didn't win for 7 games. And I think you then sort of, you quickly fall off the pace. So I think it is an interesting time for clubs at the top end of the season, at both ends of the season, to be honest. I think last night was a massive win for us in our circumstances, just not getting dragged that further a bit down, but, keeping some distance between us. But it's an exciting game. I think in a Saturday 3:00 kickoff, hopefully get as many fans in the door as we can, and, put on a performance that's sort of typical of recent weeks. I think minus the Bradford game, I think we've been performing well, and we're starting to hopefully shift in the right direction.
And something else that's really positive that's come out of the club, obviously, is the news that Jasper signed a new contract, and what a great example he's been of someone who's joined at the development squad and really taken his chance in the first team as well. Yeah,
when he's everyone needs those moments, with injuries and things to get in the team, and it's what you do when you're in the team. If you take that chance or not, and he fully grabbed it with both hands, did really, really well. I was really, really chuffed with him because he's one of football's good guys. He's a great person to have around the club, and I think the more of these players and the more of these characters that the club can get, it does spell a bright future. And I think the B team, the whole blanket of B team players that we've managed to have in, there's been ones coming through, and long may it continue, because that's a very profitable thing for the club and the club's long-term future.
And a really great example, as you say, of the type of player, but also the type of person that does well at the club, and great to see, obviously, Bez scoring for the first time as well.
Yeah, exactly. I think for a striker, it's always best to get that first one out the way. I think he's had a couple of chances that he'd probably back himself to score that he hasn't, but you just showed his quality last night with curling that one into the top corner. And I think it came at a great time for us. It kind of killed any sort of momentum or comeback that they had. And as I alluded to before, us going and getting that, staying on the front foot and getting that second goal to kill teams off is something that we haven't done enough this season. So it was something that I was very chuffed about that we managed to go and do last night.
And this must give such a lift to the dressing room, but also all the players and the manager as well for kind of just sticking with it, and the form would obviously turn.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's interesting. I think everyone's together and everyone's pulling in the right direction when things are going well. I think during my time here, there hasn't been many downs, if I'm being honest. I think I was very fortunate to in the club's history to probably join at a right upward curve. And, this season we found ourselves in a position that we haven't wanted to be in. And it's interesting. You see who sticks with you and who doesn't. And it's been a learning curve for all us players. I'm sure the gaffer's learned that, a hell of a lot in his first year here. I found it very fitting that in his 12 months in charge, on the day, I think 12 months to the day, he then takes us to Wembley, which is, something for us that I feel that we're giving back to him, because I feel like, some of the performances and things have let them down at times this season, if I'm being honest. And I think, conceding the late goals and things is things that us players take sort of heavily on our shoulders. But I think, like Rob and Pete have mentioned before, that the gaffer was going to be given time to try and implement his own style, because it was always going to be hard following on from such an icon as Gareth Ainsworth and a legend at the club. But I think hopefully with the time and the right people in the building, that things are, going to go in the right direction.
And as you touched on earlier, do you as players get the chance to really look forward to, playing at Wembley again on the 7th of April, or is that kind of like shut off till a bit nearer the time, and obviously the focus really on the league campaign?
Yeah, it's a weird one, to be honest, because I think if I didn't have my family messaging me about tickets and messaging me about coming down to stay, I honestly don't think I'd feel like we're going to Wembley. I think it was, because it was a Wednesday night, you were kind of straight back into training Thursday, straight back on Friday, and then before you knew it, you were at Stevenage on Saturday, and then you were into the game last night. And I think you've pretty much got a busy schedule right up until, you've got the Friday, Monday, Easter week before the game against Peterborough. So it's, with Pompey at home and Blackpool away. So it's an extremely tough weekend for us. And I honestly think I'll start to properly look forward to it after the final whistle at Blackpool. Hopefully we've given our fans one hell of a day up there, and they can enjoy themselves in the seaside and come back with the 3 points. And then I think everyone can then hopefully go with a bit of positivity onto Wembley. But until then, I think league form very much is the focus of everyone's talk at the minute.
No, absolutely. And just after Easter as well. Must be great for you personally as well to be having a return to Wembley as well.
Yeah, it is. I feel very fortunate. I think it'll be my 4th time going back with a club, and it's the holy grail of, I would think, football stadiums in the UK, to be honest. And I think for me, it's something I feel very, very fortunate about. It's not something that I'm even remotely ever taken for granted, because you speak to some players and they've had careers and they never got the chance to roll out at the National Stadium. So it is an amazing achievement, both myself and the club. I think it's the 3rd time in 5 years that Wycombe are going to Wembley. So I think for the fans, it's incredible. I think they're getting to experience it again, hopefully on the right side of the result this time, which is the main thing. I think that's the only thing anyone cares about, really. But, I think for everyone involved at the club, it's, a chance to win a trophy, and a first time in this final for the club is a brilliant thing. And I do think shows that the club is moving in a positive direction.
But just overall, what would be your message to fans going into kind of this, what feels like kind of the latter part of the season?
Just stick with us, to be honest. I think, I do wholly understand that, we've had sort of frustrating periods, I think around about Christmas time and in the start of the year. I know myself, I'm big enough and ugly enough to admit that we weren't winning enough games, and I get that there's questions getting put on the squad and the staff, but to really stick with us, and a shout out to everyone that did stick with us. I see the comments on social media and things, and they do mean a lot. I see people backing us from the same names pop up, and they're giving support and things, and it does mean a lot, I'll be honest, especially during the tough times. I mean, everyone can sit and take praise when we're sitting high in the playoffs and we're going to Wembley, you know what I mean? But it's during the tough times that sticking together is what counts. And just stick with us for the rest of the season. I really, really hope that we can give you a great day at Wembley. And, you know, I think the league form, if we pick up a good few results between now and Wembley and get that positivity sort of vibing between everyone, then we can hopefully create some atmosphere at Wembley and go and lift the trophy.
I wish you all the best, obviously, for Saturday. Brilliant to speak to you. Thank you so much for your time.
Top man, mate. Thank you very much, bud. Cheers.
Pleasure to have Captain Jack on the show. That's his new text alert.
Really is, yeah.
A special game on Saturday against Barnsley for many reasons.
Yes, for many reasons. But yes, Saturday will be the club's designated fixture of support for the Wycombe Wanderers Disabled Supporters Association, and also someone that you may remember from the last couple of years, Level Playing Field as well. It's their Unite for Access campaign this week, starting on Saturday. There'll be more on Rob's show from 12, more on Pretty Much Drills next week and this show as well.
And the big sleep out on Saturday.
It is, yes. Good luck to everyone taking part in that.
Looks like it might be wet.
Yeah, -1 on Saturday, so yeah, good luck.
That's Adams Park, also All Saints Church in Marlow, and you might be doing it at home as well.
Might well be, yes.
Raising money for Wycombe Homeless Connection.
Good charity.
Join us next week on the show.
Come on, you blues.
Have a good week. That's it. Thank you for listening, and good night. Goodbye if you're listening during the day.